Now we're going to be talking about your pitch. And we'll start out by talking about preparing for your pitch. We're going to be sending you a draft pitch deck, which is actually based on the quad chart, the original draft quad chart that we sent you. This is going to be an opportunity to go a little deeper into your technology. Remember, it's not going to be a sales pitch. Really think about the difference between a technology pitch and a sales pitch. So if you don't already have a presentation in mind, here's going to be at least a starting point for you. We're going to start out looking at the quad chart. Basically, what we're going to do is map your quad chart into a pitch deck. So if you look at the quadrant 1, upper left, we're going to walk through that. So we'll start out with a slide, a title slide, and then the next slide is going to be quadrant 1, that one sentence description of your technology. So then the second slide is going to be the bullet points under that sentence. So if you think about this as we're walking through this, we can basically take each one of your sections in quad chart and just divide them up into pages in your slide deck. So the next slides are going to be quadrant 2, the items in quadrant 2, and then a second slide after that would be if you want to split out your bullet points in quadrant 2. Then on to the next quadrant, quadrant 3 in the upper right-hand corner, we're going to be splitting that putting that all into one slide, and then you can have a second slide if you want to split into a second slide. And then as we go down to the fourth quadrant, I'm going to be talking about going to start off with TRL and scaling information. I put that on one slide, and then the timeline information on the other. And then the following slide, the last slide, would be your summary slide. And I don't have anything to draft in that necessarily. That's something you really want to put the final touches on. So as you go through this, keep in mind that this is just a draft of what it would look like. So what I would recommend, and this is why we had you start on the quad chart, I would recommend going through your quad chart, your finalized quad chart, and actually just copying and pasting the information over into the appropriate place into this draft to have an updated draft of your most important information. Then remember to remove the red comments, of course, and add graphics. You can move text blocks, change titles. This is just a draft to get you started if you need it. You can definitely use your own format for your pitch deck. You don't have to use this, but remember, you've already gone through a lot of work to emphasize in your quad chart what is most important, and then to flesh it out in the information paper. You've already decided what's most important to get across. So don't just start with a company pitch that you have from somewhere else and use it. You might be able to use the basic format structure, but remember, that's probably a sales pitch, not a technology pitch. A lot of times people ask me if they can use a pitch that they already have, and I always say, what is it? And it's almost always the wrong pitch. And think about it, you want to make sure and incorporate your best effort that you've already decided on. So now on the last slide, in that summary slide, that's where I would put the ask, normally probably at the end here. You might say it right up front at the beginning, depending on your personal style. What is it that you want to get out of meeting with these tech scouts? Now remember, they don't have check writing ability. So if you just get up there and say, I want you to write me a check for $1 million to get this done, they can't necessarily do that. But They might be able to provide you introductions to people that would be very interested in technology that might be able to do that. They might, I've seen them refer to places to get testing and evaluation done. Sometimes they can actually circumvent some processes and help you get that kind of testing done very quickly. I've seen that happen. General feedback, ideas where you might pursue different places in the military that you should be talking to. So those are the kinds of things that you want to have in your ask, and be very upfront about it. One thing that I would emphasize is in your pitch, right at the beginning, if you have served in the military, I would encourage you to say that. You don't have to dwell on it. You can say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm CEO of such and such a company, and I'm also a former Marine or whatever. That connects with the Tech Scouts as well. And a lot of times they will say, thank you for your service right then. It might open up a conversation later on with them at some kind of a networking session. Say, hey, you said you were in the Marines, what general area were you in, or something like that. So I would definitely consider saying that, or maybe just one or two sentences about what you were doing. Now, as a suggestion, I would say you want to make sure that you get done in your allotted time window with your pitch, so you have time for Q&A. But here's a suggestion for you. If you want to have some additional slides after that summary slide, that you've actually planned, anticipated questions that might be asked. You might be able to go into more detail. You maybe have a chart or two or in there that would go into further detail in case there's a question that comes up. Remember, you've got a short time window, so you can't cover everything you would like to. But if somebody asks you a specific question, and instead of saying, wow, I wish I had a chart for this, I can say, well, hey, let me just flip down here a second and we'll talk about that. I wondered if somebody might want to know more. Also, just if there's a lull in the Q&A time, I would maybe pick something that you could go deeper into some aspect of it, or an example of an application. Having some of those prepared slides like that, even if it's just a couple of them, it really makes you look professional and prepared when questions come up, that you are ready to field them and you've anticipated them. And you can just say, I didn't go into that detail for my presentation because I didn't go into that much detail unless I thought I would if somebody brought the question up. So now we're going to talk about areas of focus. Just think about these things as you're working on this document. I've already said you want to kind of track what you've already said in your quad charter and information paper, emphasizing the technology, not the company. Emphasize how it can help the warfighter. And this is very important. This isn't just, hey, this would be a really neat civilian product. They're here specifically, they may refer you to people in the commercial sector, but their primary job is to help the warfighter get their job done more efficiently and bring them home safely. So tie it back to the warfighter, especially in quadrant 3. Tie back to what do you do for them, either directly or indirectly, supporting them through better situational awareness, support some kind of capabilities, a new capability or an enhanced capability. Focus on what it can do, not a detailed explanation of how it works. Don't get down in the weeds of all the details of how it works, just that it works. Here's what it does. That will also keep you out of the intellectual property realm. So you can give them a teaser, but you're not advertising to everybody all the details of your secret sauce. You may give them enough information to show a basic plausibility, like, I'm doing this. I'm adding this capability because I'm able to do this at a different level or at a different amplitude, or maybe I can enhance it in some ways due to some new technology that has just come around the corner. But you don't have to give a lot of details. Intellectual property details are not required when you're giving your pitch. Emphasize on how it's unique and how it stands out from its competitors and what it will do. Communicating the potential capabilities to the DoD and to the warfighter, not just selling the product. It's important. It may be an important technology, but it's not important just that you're another person who also makes this technology. Why are you unique about this technology? Something about your company has to stand out. And remembering that the military personnel here, they're not your customers, but they may very well know them. So keep that in mind. Graphics are really good, but only if they enhance your presentation. I've had people come to me and say, you know, they have a really interesting graphic on the front of their presentation. It's like, okay, what is that? And they said, well, I don't know, I just thought it looked cool, so I thought it would get their attention. Make the graphics work for you. Otherwise, don't use them. Do something with them, show some capability or enhance some way, maybe showing an environment where this might be used or something that would really fit with your presentation. As far as videos go, we really encourage you not to use videos. They tend to give trouble, and the Tech Scouts, they tend not to want them. I've actually been chewed out by Tech Scouts saying, why did you allow them to use that video? If you really think you have to use one, then talk to your tech coach about it. But a lot of times what people do when they're working with a video is they'll cue their whole talk off the video, and then since we're doing this, you know, some of these conferences remotely, on a remote conference, it may not be as much of a problem because you're running your own computer. But especially if you're running somebody else's computer, I would say the percentages of them not working is about 25 to 30% chance that it won't run because of some codec that's not there or something, or just having a bad attitude. And a lot of times people cue their talk off of that, and then when the video doesn't run, it makes them lose their whole track of their presentation. So if you do end up using a video, click on it once. If it doesn't run, go on and be ready to go on. Assume that it won't run because it might not. And if you do use a video, make sure that it is as short as possible. We had one company that had about a 3-minute video, and almost all of the video was showing a UAV flying in the air, shooting pictures of the ground. We all know that UAVs fly in the air and take pictures of the ground. But then about the last 30 seconds, then they started showing what they did with that video. But they wasted 2.5 minutes, and tech coaches told me that was a waste of time. We already get what it'll do. I would just point out one common question that comes up time and time again, so be ready for it, is this made in America? Or what plans do you have to bring this back to America to be manufactured? Because if the military is going to use it, they're going to require that, except in maybe in very, very unique circumstances. So now we're going to talk about the presentation flow and getting ready for the presentation after you've got your pitch deck pretty much done. First of all, I would say practice pitches are very helpful. Please sign up and get practice pitch help. Out of everything that we do here with the Tech Innovation Center and at the Kansas SBDC and different conferences we help with, that's the number one feedback we get, is that everything you did was very helpful, but the practice pitch was the most helpful, where we go through and actually listen to you and try and give you an idea of how you came across, how much you emphasize one thing too much or not enough, other things you should have drawn out, so that your first pitch isn't the real pitch. Now, for the Encountering Innovation conference that we do, we'll just talk about the mechanics of the actual presentation. Our conferences, typically we have a 1-minute window with a hard time break to the next presenter. So we like to say, think 9-9-2, 9 minutes to present, 9 minutes of Q&A, and 2 minutes to roll over to the next presenter. And if you're not out of there in 20 minutes, you'll have to be removed out of there so the next person can start. For other conferences, those times will vary, but it will be very similar. You're going to have a window allotted for pitch time and Q&A, and make sure to plan accordingly. You do not want to take so long in your pitch that you end up having very little Q&A time, because that's the feedback you really want. For those of you that haven't had a lot of experience in presenting, a good rule of thumb is about 1 to 2 slides per minute. So in the example above, for a 9-9-2 pitch, we ended up with a slide deck that was somewhere around 10 slides. That works pretty well. Some people are more comfortable with less slides and some are more. But what you don't want to do, you don't want to have so much information on the slide that it's hard to read. You don't want to be flipping through slides so fast that it feels like a choppy video. You know, you're flipping every 5 seconds. You don't even have time to, the people in the audience don't even have time to read it. But 1 to 2 slides per minute is reasonable. Some events that we support actually go into another room right after your presentation with your tech coach, and then we review feedback steps, and we determine the next things that you should be doing for getting ready to move on. Sometimes it might be a phone call that needs to be made. Sometimes it might be editing documents. Sometimes after you pitch, the tech scouts will specifically say, I want your quad chart, the information paper, and your presentation. And actually what they call that a KIP, quad chart, information paper, and pitch deck, basically. And then the bluff, and then we'll talk about a POC document. So when they say, I want your KIP B POC, that means a specific set of documents that you should understand and you should already have ready. So that will be helpful. And sometimes they will say, I want those things, but before you send them to me, I want you to update them. That is so that they can actually refer to specific things in there that they know will most likely that they know will probably get attention by somebody that will be interested. So they want to emphasize a point. Sometimes it will actually say, I want you to make a separate set of documents for that technology that we talked about during our Q&A session, because there's a specific application I want you to target. When they ask you for that, they're already thinking of where they want to socialize it to. So don't be offended if they ask you to generate a second set of documents. That's actually a very good thing. Final thoughts. This is going to be a friendly audience, and they want to collaborate with you and share ideas with you. So what I would say is, think about sitting around the table with a group of sharp people that are really interested in your technology and have volunteered to be helpful. They may even interrupt you while you're doing your presentation to comment or ask a question. That's actually a good thing. It shows they're engaged, they're interested. So don't be intimidated. I mean, you want to do a good job and you want to come across professional, but they are not evaluating you based on how well you can stand in front of somebody and present. Remember, they're focused on the technology. So present that and then just relax and enjoy the interactions.